and welcome to our episode number 3 of the Yeshiva League Pass Tip-Off Podcast. I'm Ari Wickes, joined by Oren Glickman, and we're going to have our special guest coming on soon, Ari Halpert, our Player of the Week. And before we get into that, we just want to talk about our sponsors and the reason that we are able to do this. We have Holy Schnitzel, who is the best you can have all around, and you can get food from there at all different boroughs. They're on Uber Eats, the restaurant. You can go right into the 5 towns, all different boroughs, get all the food you want, chicken, salads, wraps, you name it, they have it. And it's just a go-to place for all these teams in the Yeshiva League after they get a victory, don't get a victory. It's always a victory when you eat at Holy Schnitzel. Our other sponsor is Gotta Get a Bagel, and they are in the 5 towns, and they're the one and only Joel Baruch, the owner there, and they are just the best place to get all of your bagels, appetizing, and they do brises, they do catering, they do a phenomenal job, and they are a big sponsor of our podcast, and we are grateful to them. Got to Get a Bagel and Holy Schnitzel. And if you're interested in becoming a sponsor, reach out and we will talk to you about the possibilities. So without further ado, we are going to get into it. We're going to bring our star player of the week, the one, the only Ari Halpert from SAR. Hello, Ari. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me tonight.
All right, just one question. We want to make sure you're not driving, right? You have a driver taking you around town right now? Okay.
I have a driver right now.
Okay, good. Well, first of all, congrats on being named the Player of the Week. Your name is synonymous with SAR. Your family is a representative of Yeshiva League basketball for many, many years. Your grandfather, icon at Yeshiva University. So, you are carrying on the name with, the Halperts and doing a great job. And, we brought you on this week because, SAR has just been cooking, as they say, beating all their opponents, having some great games. And, you are the key to that team, along with Sam Weiss. You guys have really, stood out. And we thank you for joining us. So I'm just going to hit you with some questions, and Oren's going to jump in, go back and forth, nothing that you haven't been able to handle in the past. So I'm going to start by talking about, something about, the legacy at SAR. SAR is a great school, and your father, obviously, it's no secret to anyone, is your coach, and he's a fabulous coach. And I wanted to ask you, SAR, if I believe correctly, has never won a varsity championship. They've been close. They've had a lot of chances, and they've always been a perennial contender. I want to know, what would it be like for you if you can visualize, winning a championship, playing for your dad, for the school that he's been a part of for so long, and that you have, since you were a little kid. What would that mean to you and your family?
I think it'd be pretty special, especially the fact that you just said that we've never won a varsity championship. As you know, last year we did win a JV, and back a while ago they also won a JV. So especially with my dad being the coach and like my grandfather, it would just be very meaningful, especially in the school, as the team that we have, to win a championship as a varsity team together.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I know the JV championships. We were going to get there also. Yes, but it's a great thing to you and your credentials that you were able to do that. But the varsity level is definitely something that I was interested in. And on that note, before I pass it to Oren, tell us about playing for your dad. Obviously, there's no question, should Ari Halpert be playing in the game or not. We know that you should be in the game, but how has that been? Playing for your father, who's a great basketball mind, a great coach. You're on the court, you're listening to him, then you go home. Does he tell you more and more, or is it kind of a separation of coach, and now I'm just going to be your dad and rag on you with all the things that you didn't do right?
I think that he's good enough to like tell me like stuff as a coach to a player, of stuff that you need to work on, not tell me because like he's my father, and like he doesn't single me out because like he doesn't put more pressure on me. He still's like, he treats me like every other player, like saying when I mess up, he says something and then I fix it. And then when you get home, he just gives me advice. And like, as I go, obviously it's a little better because he's the coach and he's always there to like help me, on like other people who just go home. But like, he's always there to like give me advice and make sure, and doesn't like treat me like different like anyone else.
Got it. Oren, what do you got for Ari?
So I don't think people are surprised with your instant success at the varsity level. I think there were a lot of people who actually thought you could hack it in varsity last year as a sophomore, but you passed up on that opportunity to win a JV championship with your classmates. You've had a tough stretch this last week, and it doesn't end. Back to back against playing TABC twice in the span of a week. a DRS home game in between. How did your father get you guys prepared for this critical stretch?
So we've had practices like we try as much as we can wherever the gym's available. We try to practice. We mentally prepare ourselves, like knowing what we have to do, execute our plays a team. And like we also did have a scrimmage the day after TBC Thursday night, a few nights ago against Riverdale Country, who's a private school in Riverdale, and that was like a good game for us. They were much bigger than us, and like it was like a step, like a preparation for our game for Saturday night. A team that's much bigger than us.
Take us through that game. We're coming off. This is this game against DRS. I mean, obviously, first you had TABC earlier in the week. Typical TABC SAR clash. You were able to come out on top by about 4 points or so. But Saturday night, obviously, the environment at SAR DRS. You guys had played earlier in the season twice, I believe, already in one. But the most recent was a championship in the Magen David tournament overtime thriller. So here you are again against DRS. You had a lead, and then you saw it creeping away. And I know Joe Aaron is a friend of yours and a competitor as well. What were you thinking in that last possession? Which I don't think you were guarding him in that last possession, or maybe you were, but I think it was Elias who actually ended up on him. But what was the defensive strategy, and what did you think when you saw Joe coming down with a full head of steam?
So what we planned to do, what actually my dad said in the huddle, he's like, just stay in front of him. Do not reach, don't foul, just play straight up defense. And when I saw the way they set up their offense, I know that like Joe is very much better in a transition than like a half court offense. So when I saw him getting momentum, I was like, oh boy, he's very good in transition. But the thing is that Mateus actually stood with him and like he played good defense. And if I think that if he tried like reaching or something, then he would have gotten a shot off quicker. But as you watch the videos after the buzzer, so like that actual split second of defense probably saved the game that day.
Right. Did you, by the way, I was watching it on the live stream in SAR. Great live streaming, great announcers, by the way. Shout out to them. They do a great job. Did you think right away it was after the shot clock? Because when I was watching the live stream, honestly, I thought it was good. And then I did see that
so
afterwards,
I actually, I was
late.
all in the left wing. It's like I was able to watch it and see it. Like I knew it was off, but like I just didn't think about that during the play. I'm like, okay, shoot, like we lost. Like then once the ref went over, I'm like, yeah, there's no way that should have counted. And like he made this call right away. It took him 10 seconds, and like it was the right call as you watched the video over and over.
Yeah, he did.
It was a great shot by him, but
it was right a split second late. It was great. It was just like all the emotions. You go from thinking you lost to winning, and I think there was even a kid in the video who came running on, then ran off, and I don't know which team he was rooting for. It was just the drama of the moment, but it was great. That was Yeshiva League basketball at its best. Oren, you're up.
So a 1 point game in the Magen David tournament, a 1 point game last night at the Hive. Do you anticipate a round 3 coming? Whether that be, are you guys both competing in the Saturn tournament, or are you anticipating this happening again in the Yeshiva League final?
I think that there's a very good chance we see them in the playoffs. I don't know if we'll be in the Saturn tournament this year, but I can see us playing them in the playoffs against this year. I mean, and it would be like we beat them first, we lost second, we just beat them. It just could be back and forth like it's always been. Like we've been playing against them. Like also when I was a freshman and a sophomore, we played them. All games have been close against them, so it should be fun to play them again. Hopefully.
Yeah, it's a lot of different players stepping up. It's always a good game. Tell us about how you've made the adjustment. Obviously, in JV, you were the man, the go-to guy. I mean, there was no question. You need a bucket, you need to steal Ari's and to come up with it. This year, going in your junior year, you have Sam Weiss, who's a star player, and you guys kind of have similar games. I would say you're both more one-on-one slashing, beat your man off the dribble type players. So how do you guys, and you guys have been phenomenal all season long. How do you guys coexist, knowing that you really are working with each other, but at the same time you guys are both looking for your baskets when needed?
So what I think we do is that we run the place, and then like once you run through it a few times, then that's the time where you find the right spot to break off and like take your man to the basket. And like we really we try to play as much as a team as we can, like share the ball. And obviously when you need a basket or like you need to maybe don't take the best shot, but you have to do it. And like so the thing with me and Sammy, just like it really who has the ball where the play ends up and where you get the ball on the court. Like if you're on the wing, you have a much better chance of scoring taking the guy one-on-one than from the middle up top. So it really just depends on where you are, who has the ball, how the game is going, who's playing well. Like as you saw in the game, like me and like Sam didn't score as much. Like Mateus hit like in overtime, we were down one. He hit like a clutch three to bring us up two. It's like it really just depends on what's happening in the game, who's playing well, and how the plays are working out for us.
Wait, on that note, what do you think the biggest change from your freshman year when this same team was in JV, which you guys were on paper the most talented team, and you kind of had a great start to the season, and then you filtered out in the playoffs. What do you think is the biggest difference besides your coaching? It's obviously just one's your dad, one's your not. But what's been the biggest difference that you see in this year as opposed to 2 years ago with kind of the same crew?
So I think there's like two things. One, freshman year, we did not have Saul on our team, who was extremely helpful. He guarded Ayal the whole game and really led Ayal to have like 6 real points. He had a few transition and fast breaks, which, okay, fine. But he really has been a huge help, rebounding, playing big. But also, when we were freshmen, I feel like we were all kids who just wanted to score, didn't really care about anyone else. But now we're still working on becoming a team, sharing the ball, playing as a team, and like that's how you win games. As we experience, you're not going to win a game by one kid having 35 points. Like that's not how you're going to win these games. It happens in college, NBA. Like that does not happen. You need a team, everyone to score and share the ball and play as a team.
Wait, I think I do remember a game in California. There's this kid who had about 35 points. They lost to you, right? I think, right? Was that you?
We lost though, yeah.
Right. It's not. I'm saying case in point. It's true. You need to work as a team, and that's. By the way, it's exactly what you said. It's funny to hear him say we were a kid 2 years ago, but I've seen the maturity of you guys as a team. Comparable to where you were then and where you are now. So I think you're right on point with what you guys are trying to do, what's being seen by the rest of us. Oren, what do you have?
So Ari, I don't know if you recall, but before the Mag and David tournament, I think the preseason rankings came out and they had SAR at 6. Was that extra motivation? Was there something about this team that the public eye was missing that you guys always knew was wrong and that there was something special about this group?
Yeah, I knew we weren't the 6th best team, and like it was honestly good for us to like feel like people are doubting us. Like let's show like what we can do and like how we're the better team and how like we worked our way. Like when we all saw that, we're like, okay, you know what? They're doubting us. Let's just be better than that. Like it was good for us to be like put there. And like honestly, the DRS game that we lost and the EULA game, those are all games for us to learn and become better on. It was all like a good game for us to learn, like to be better than that.
Right. What do you think going into the season? Obviously, you're hoping for a championship. I think that is the goal. Your Yeshiva League championship possibility, and then obviously you had a year off of Sarachek. I know you guys are motivated to get back there, and I can't imagine you guys won't be. But going in, who the key games are DRS. We know that was a game that you guys had an interconference. But in your own division, who do you feel is the biggest rival? And I know SAR has Frisch, TABC, Ramaz, a little bit. What do you guys view as your biggest rival going into the season, and how do you prepare for those big games?
I would say probably TBC because we've been back and forth with them again since freshman year. When I was a freshman and we played them in the playoffs, we actually lost them once the regular season on a buzzer beater. We lost by 2 in overtime or something like that. And then in the playoffs, we got absolutely destroyed. We lost by like 30. So like that's been a rival for us. Like last year, we beat them once or twice. Don't remember. It was good for us. And this year, especially beating them in the preseason tournament, and then again Wednesday night, and now we have another one. It's good. We always play them. They're very well coached, very well. Their AL's very good. So like I would say that's the biggest rival.
And would you rather play them home or away, as you personally?
Me personally, I don't really particularly care, but like it's good to go in another place, another gym, and like win and beat them, especially with their whole crowd. Like feels good to do that.
All right, Oren. I mean, we set you up now. It's your question, even though I think he was talking about TABC. Go ahead.
I mean, I think everyone's expecting Tuesday night to be another classic, but this time at the Hive. I'm sure you guys are ready for TABC to come out hungry, after losing their first game of the season into the hands of you guys last week. What's not to not to show too much of your cards, but what are you expecting going in, and do you expect it to be a down to the wire contest like it was last week?
I'm sure it's gonna be a great game, but I think we just have to do what we always do. We play as a team. We just like be ready to come play. We have practice, like just to prepare for ourselves, and just like it's gonna be a good game. They're very well team, very well coached, and we just need to execute and do what we do best.
Right. What one thing that you're known for, and you, I mean, I'm sure you realize it, but it's not what you get all the publicity for. Is, you're an amazing defensive player, right? I mean, everyone sees the offense, the drives, the funky spin that you have that only you know how to do, that gets it in off the backboard. But your defense sometimes really sets up your offense. So are you, and generally, I don't think you're like taking the best man on the other team's the best offensive threat. You're more of like a free safety, attacking. How do you work on defense? I know offense is something that you obviously you can get out in the summer and work on your shooting, your dribbling, your handles, and all that. But what is it defensively that makes you stand out amongst your peers?
So for me, like in practice, we do a lot of defensive slides and like you just get our feet moving and making sure you have good footwork. You also have to not reach and like you to see where the court is, see what the point guard's looking to when they run their plays. You have to recognize when they keep running the same play, they're going to pass it to the same spot every time. So like it's for me at least, I just see where the guard's looking and where they've been running their plays. And you just have to keep your hands wide, don't reach, and just like look at him and honestly just like see where he goes because like they're very predictable, especially in the Yeshiva league where they run the same plays.
Right, over and over again until they either succeed or fail. All right, Oren, you have another one, and then I have one more when after you.
Yeah, I guess I would want your perspective on the JV title from last year. A good friend of mine, Michael Courtney, was your head coach. What was it like playing in his last season of head coaching, winning that championship with him? Could we get your thoughts on that?
It was honestly great for him and for us. Like his last year, we got a championship. He's won one or two, but like this one was different. We won the Florida tournament first, which was very good for us. We had
And
a
he's
few
a
games
Florida
that we
native.
lost. Exactly. It was like his family came, so it was honestly good for us to win that, especially in front of cats. Their whole school was there, and then for us to win the championship, which was like we lost the first three times a year in the regular season, but we won when it mattered. So it was honestly really nice for us to like finally win, achieve something. Obviously, varsity and JV is a whole different story. Like varsity is much more meaningful, and like we worked so much harder. You play more games, you practice more. Like varsity is obviously more important, but it was still very like a nice accomplishment for us to win the JV championship last year, especially with all the kids that we've been playing with for pretty much my whole life, like Jonah and Evan. We've been playing together since like fifth grade. Like it was nice for us to finally win.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal year for you guys all around. So my last question for you is three players, the toughest, the matchups, and I'm going to say you can't give me Ayal and you can't give me Joe Aaron. We've talked enough about them. We know that they're kind of on a tier of their own. So give me three players that you've gone up against and that you're just like, wow. I mean, I know I'm a good ball player, but I got to be at my best to play against these guys.
Um, in the Yeshiva League, like in our
Anyone,
conference, or
anyone you played against, tournaments, yeshiva, anyone that I'm sure people will know who they are.
so when we were in LA, we played this kid on Jewish culture. It was very good. I honestly forgot his name, but that kid played very well
Hazan.
against us. Yeah. When we played Eula, honestly, really like Hollander and Gabe, they both played very well against us. And then probably, I mean, we haven't played them yet, but I heard he got much better. But Braha, who is apparently playing very well. Honestly, like every team has one player who's like very good. Like Stepner, we just played against, even though we played amazing defense on him, he's very well. He's a sophomore playing varsity. So like, but every team really has like a good player where like you really have to bring your A game no matter what. Like, you can't like you always have to be ready.
Right. All right. There you go. Or you have anything else before his chauffeur drops him out? Because his curfew is about in 10 minutes. So
No, I covered everything on my end. We're big fans of your whole family. You guys are true professionals and class acts, and wishing you the best of luck in your next game against TABC and the rest of the season and beyond.
Thank you so much. Thanks
All
for
right.
having me tonight.
Yeah, we'll give you one chance, Ari. Any shout outs before you go to anyone you want to say shout out, out there?
I guess to like the whole team and the coaches.
All right, there you go. He's SAR through and through. Well, Ari, thank you for joining us. Congrats on a great start, middle of the season. You're destined for great things ahead. We know how hard you work and how much of a team player you are. And thanks for joining us, and best of luck on the rest of the season.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
You too.
You got it. Wow, what a great interview. Ari Halpert, as all our players of the week have shown us, they are superstars on the court, off the court. They do a great job, and it's no wonder that they are, where they are with all that they do with the hard work and dedication to the game. But speaking of that, let's get into our power rankings now. We have some big changes this week, some moving teams up, moving down, some really big games that took place this past week, and we're going to get right into it. We have number 20, Maggot Abraham. Not going to say much about them. They're number 20, and they're definitely not moving from there their entire season because they may not have a season. I heard they're kind of folding up shop. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later, Maggot Abraham. At number 19, now holding the championship belt for the highest ranked team or the lowest ranked team, however you want to look at it, is Hank Hurricanes. Hank, I believe, is still winless in the Yeshiva League. They have a strong JV, but right now they are stuck at number 19. At 18, we have the Kushner Cobras, who have, we've talked about them before. They've been playing well. They've been playing competitively with a lot of teams, just haven't been able to really get over the hump. And then at 17, I'm going to let you go with this, Oren. This is Or. I know TABC just played them. I think they've been disappointing thus far. I mean, they haven't really beaten anyone other than maybe a team below them. But, what did you see from Or, and do they still have a chance to turn their season around?
I don't think so, unfortunately. I think Ezra Stern is an absolute beast, and Yermi Gross is a solid 2 behind him. But I think they're just 1 or 2, 3 players short from having serious depth and, keeping up with the big guns. So unfortunately, I think it's going to be a down year for Orr.
Right. It sounds like, well, the 1, 2, or 3 players they lost from last year probably is the reason that they're
Shmuzi Rosen and Rosazada all had a second year this year.
Right.
Top of the top.
Right. And then you have coming next at number 16 is the JEC Thunder. JEC, had a game. They beat Orr, which was a big win. They lost a close game to YPE, and then they got beaten by Frisch the other night. They were, I think, leading at the half, even over Frisch at Saturday night. And then I think they just don't have the horses right now. And they came up a little short. So they are at number 16. At number 15, we have Waterbury, who, again, I think it's been somewhat of a down year for them also. They haven't really beaten anyone. Even the games that the teams above them, they haven't really played that competitively. As in years past, they were always a little closer in those games. And right now they're struggling, and they're at number 15. At number 14 is Rambam, who, you got to beat who you're supposed to beat. And Oren, that's what they've been doing. They've been beating the teams they're supposed to beat, and they're going to be in a playoff in the hunt for a 6th seed in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I love Coach Arenazos. I'm a big fan of his. I think he prepares game in, game out. And because they're in the quote unquote weaker division here, they might have a real opportunity to clinch that 6th and final playoff spot in the East.
Yeah, it's going to come down to there's still a lot of games to be played, but they're definitely putting themselves in a good position. At number 13, you have the Heschel Heat, who are, again, a team that we've talked about, kind of the same. They haven't beaten anyone, but they're competitive, minus the blowout against SAR. They're a team that is going to be right there with a lot of these teams. And
they just played in a championship game this weekend, actually. They competed in the Wiener tournament in Baltimore. They came up short against Chat. So, maybe having the opportunity to play in a championship game in a midseason tournament could kind of give them a little bit of a boost as they transition back into Yeshiva League play.
Yeah, absolutely. So then at number 12, we have the Hafter Hawks. And Hafter had a really big win the other night. They played North Shore, who obviously is above them in rankings. We haven't mentioned them. I think that might have been a season-saving win when I say that, because with that loss, they could have gone to 2-6, and they still have a lot of teams ahead of them. They'd have to jump over, and teams that they'd have to play to beat. But that was a big win against North Shore, who was at full strength. Hafter really came out, and I think they knew they played like it, that they had to get that game, especially at home. And they're at number 12, right now in the season. At number 11, we have the Flatbush Falcons, who their game this past week, their big game was against Mag and David, and Mag and David won easily. But I know you've seen Flatbush, and you're a big fan of Coach Malk. What do you think? You think they're going to be around here most of the season? Do you see them upsetting anyone at any point, or kind of they're going to be where they're at?
Unfortunately, I think the deep run that they had last year was due to the seniors that they had, and I don't think it's going to end quite the way they expect this year. But I think they'll be right back on the top beginning next year.
Yeah, they have a strong JV, and Sammy Jamal, coming back from injury. They should be positioned well for next year. Then at number 10, we have the YDE Thunder, who are, they're playing, and they're again, when you take care of those teams early on and you beat the teams that are lower in the rankings, you build up victories. And usually to get into the playoffs as a 6 seed, you generally need about 7 wins. Is probably the high mark. I think they're right at 5 or 6. So they're in a strong position. Again, when they played the DRSs, the upper teams, they kind of hung around for a little, but then they've gotten the lead has expanded on rather quickly. But they're strong, but they're going to have to really pull off an upset to move up in the rankings. And then at number 9, I guess I don't know if this team is an enigma. I think they kind of are who they are. It's the Frisch Cougars. They this past week, or depending on when we did the podcast, they beat Ramaz in a close game, and then they followed up with what we thought was a shocker of the season, a home loss to MTA, which we'll get to a little later when we talk about MTA. But they're not really getting those wins, and Frisch is always going to have a tough schedule because they play the likes of SAR, TABC, or Ramaz twice each. So when you're playing in your own conference against the top tier teams twice, it's always going to set yourself up for potential pitfalls. But what have you seen from Frisch? And I don't think they played TABC yet, so they have 2 games still against TABC. And I know Stepner's a star, but what do you think is lacking from Frisch, or what do you think they're still capable of?
I think they're a little bit too reliant on Stepner. I would like to see more contributions from Max Schachter, who's an elite point guard in the league, Jesse Reinhardt. I think Frisch will still squeak into the playoffs. And once they get into the playoffs, anything can happen with the Frisch Cougar team.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's like one of those teams where they come in as a 5 seed, a 6 seed. You're like, no one really wants to play them. And I think we're going to see that a lot this year. And I say that early because things can change. But I think we both agree the Western Conference this year on paper from 1 to 6 is going to be a lot stronger than 1 to 6 on the Eastern side. So when you do those crossovers, you may see some games, that potentially could be upsets on seedings, but not in reality. So that's where we have Frisch. At number 8, we have North Shore, who, I think both of us are probably prepared to rank them a little higher, but then they were beaten by HAFTR. They have a big win earlier in the season against Mag and David, and they're playing well. And I think they're getting some kids back from injury, and I think they're going to, be a little stronger as they have more time playing together. What do you see from North Shore?
I keep tossing and turning on North Shore. I feel like they have up moments, and then I feel like they have down moments.
Agreed.
They beat Mag and David when they're not at full strength, and then they have a setback against HAFTR when they are at full strength. So I think we still have to see a little bit more out of them before making a final determination.
Right. I think that's why we said, like, our rankings, they can move up a few spots, they can move down, but that's kind of where they are.
But I still think that's a team that you don't want to draw in the playoffs as a lower seed, because Coach Shullum will have them prepared.
Yeah, and they're a good team. And I think sometimes coming off injury, you just got to get acclimated with each other again and play together. And sometimes, when you guys are out, other guys step up, and then they have to go to more of a supporting role, and it kind of takes a little time to get that continuity. At number 7, we have the Ramaz Rams, who had a 2 host games this week. They lost to Frisch at home by 4 points, and then they had that game against TABC where it was a close game, and TABC ultimately prevailed. Again, they're competing. They're playing hard. They're playing without Isaac Ohayon, who had just had his ACL surgery, and they're still a team that people are going to have to play hard on. And Coach Scott has them really upping their game and really trying to step up. What have you seen from them as you saw them this week in past earlier as well?
I was very impressed with the way they played against TABC. I thought they played like a team that could have ultimately won that game, even though they fell short. And it should only give them confidence as they move into the next swing of their schedule. And, Ohio being out really hurts, but you still have some guys on this team who could really step up, such as Nate Sugar, Bobby Segura. So, while a key part of their team is missing right now, the show goes on and they could still pull off an upset and shock the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. They still have a lot of games against a lot of teams, so we'll see how that plays out. Then at number 6, we have the Hillel Heat. Hillel is they just, and we'll get to the big upset against MTA in a few minutes when we mention MTA. But Hillel really, I think, put themselves in a tough spot by losing to MTA because, as we talked about earlier on our podcast, they have an easier schedule compared to the other teams of TABC, SAR, Ramaz, Frisch, as we said, about who they're playing twice in their interconference games. So them losing a game that most people, and I would say this, and I don't want to talk too much about MTA, but I think most people, when they looked at MTA, kind of counted that as a W in the win column. But, they lost at home. They lost to TABC. They're going to have to beat one of the upper tier teams to really, put some fear into everyone. Because I think right now, everyone knows that they're good, but we don't know how good they can be.
Yeah, and that loss could potentially hurt them as they hunt for a Sarachek berth.
Right, absolutely, yeah, because they're when you're trying to fight in and make yourself noticed, you have to really win some of those tough games. And then at number 5, we have Mag and David Warriors, who kind of been under the radar, right? Mag and David, it's so ironic to say that because we talk about Mag and David for last year, the years past, just the powerhouse. But as we said, Coach Spike, Benny, and Mozart, they're doing their thing. They're keeping them hungry, keeping them motivated. They're winning games. Since an earlier loss, maybe to a team that was, like we said, North Shore, they're kind of beating all the teams that they're supposed to beat. And, they're going to upset someone because they have the star power, they have a balanced team, and they're at number 5. And I think kind of lurking, no one's really talked about that, right? I mean, we haven't mentioned it much more than in passing in most of the time we're talking.
Yeah, I think that honestly, I think this is the way they want it. Don't talk about us, don't anticipate us, because we'll be ready for you, whether you are or not.
Right, and they're doing great. And then at number 4, I don't know where they were in the rankings last week. We do our rankings, and we have it gets averaged out amongst the 3 people who do it.
I want to say 14 or 13 at best.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So they're number 4 now, and I love it. I know every team. I'm sure you have the chats or you hear from the kids, and you see, like the other day, someone said MTA beat Frisch at home. We're like, what? And then all of a sudden, like, who's MTA? Can you name a player in MTA? I mean, I know they have a good big kid. I don't even know how to say his name. You probably do. What's
Trey Hoff.
There you go. All right. I don't want to butcher it as I do most of these names, but they're a team. All of a sudden, you start going to the Yeshiva League website. You look at their schedule. You look at their players, and you're like, wow, this team can go on a real run because also they don't have one of the tougher schedules because a lot of it goes based on how you were the year before, how your JV was, and who your rivals are. But they are really a strong team. I saw a little of the Hillel game, and the big man, he's a great inside presence. They seem to have some guards who are really good, and they're just out of nowhere. I don't know in the years we've been doing this, I've ever seen a team come out of Heschel maybe last year, but then they kind of teetered off a little at the end. But what have you seen from MTA that the rest of the league is on notice?
I probably saw them on their off night when they played against TABC, but other than that, they've been nearly flawless. And if you actually look at the remaining games, they could totally finish the season out at 11-3.
Wow,
which is more than respectable, considering they were the bottom of the bottom last year.
Yeah, it's the same coach. It's not even like they brought in Pat Riley or Red Auerbach or anything. I mean, it's the same system. I guess it's kudos to those players, right? Did they get any transfers in, or it's just really their team that has improved?
Well, Trey Hoff was on this team last year. You had a couple juniors who moved up, such as Yishai Nice, who's a very good point guard. And I believe this Jakey Abenheim, who's their best shooter, I think he came to them this year as a transfer from Heichel.
Oh, wow. Okay. So there, the big, as we talk about the NIL money, I mean, it's sometimes paying off there as, he's a key component to their team. But yeah, number 4. But I will say this. Now everyone is prepared for them, right? Everyone knows MTA is coming. It's a big game. You got to be ready. If you go to MTA, they come to you. So let's see how they react to that. Although I think Hillel obviously had to be a little on guard, knowing that they had just upset Frisch. But, kudos to MTA. And then we get to number 3, the TABC Storm. TABC had as we talked about earlier, they beat Ramaz earlier in the week, and then in a back and forth affair with SAR they came up short, and now they're going to be going to SAR, which we're going to talk about in their game of the week. But TABC, it's just Ayal is such a great player, and the rebounding is such a key for him and for the team because he gives them so many second opportunities. What do you see for TABC as they're at number 3 right now in our rankings?
I think this top 3 of DRS, SAR, and TABC is something that's going to stick for the rest of the season.
Agreed.
I just don't think it's going to change all that much. Can TABC?
Wait, are we giving MTA more motivation or?
But I guess the question is, you're talking about TABC. Can TABC break through the firewall of DRS and SAR? We have yet to see that so far. TABC fell short against DRS in Memphis. Now they fell short twice against SAR in the Magan tournament, and just last week at home. So this Tuesday night clash for them is going to be a big test in terms of, can they beat that big team and break through the firewall? Only time will tell.
Right, we'll see. And then at number 2, and I even totally agree with you, these top 3 teams, not much separation. They could play each other 10 times. They can go 5-5 against, each other. I mean, I see they each have their strengths, not many weaknesses. They're just, it's
and the point separation in these matchups
they're all. By the way, and I think you've seen that in a lot of games. Most of the year, the top teams playing each other, it's in single digits most of the time. I mean, that's like we talked about this earlier. There's no Magan and Flappers this year. I think you have 6 really 4 to 5 really strong teams, then two or three teams right there. But there's no separation. But at number 2, we have DRS, who was like 0.1 away from being number 1 again. I mean, they just we talked about it with Ari Halpert, the Joe Aaron buzzer beater that had just missed, and it was really close. Like I said, when I was watching it live, I thought it was good. I was like, that was good. And then they had the other replays that came out, which showed the ref made a great call without replay. He saw that he got it off a little late. But DRS, the one thing about DRS that I've noticed is that they really need another man to step up, because we know Joe Aaron's going to do his thing. And I think Saidi, he kind of struggled a little against SAR. And then the number 15, the shooter, who I can't say his name, from DRS. Do you know his name?
Saknovitz.
Yeah, he's a great shooter. He really had a good game against SAR. But I think they need Saidi, like with Halpert. They have Halpert, Weiss, and at any given night, it could be one or the two of them who steps up. I think you always know what you're going to get with Joe, and I think Joe also didn't have his best game against SAR.
Yeah, he looked out of gas some of the time.
Yeah, he was missing some of those easy shots some of those shots that he normally hits, and they came up a little on the short end. And as you said, I think you did make the prediction, if they get through SAR, they'll go undefeated. And I didn't think that would happen, but I didn't know if it was going to be they lost SAR. Just this year, I didn't think any team was going to run the table, and I guess only SAR really has an opportunity now. But now at number 1, we have the SAR Sting, and SAR has been on a mission since California when they lost to EULA. They've taken care of all the opponents in front of them, and their schedule's tough, right? They had TABC, then 2 days later or 3 days later, DRS, and now 2 or 3 days later, back to TABC. And they're just playing really well. And I think what's so hard about them is kind of what we said in the interview. It's like you could stop one of them, Halpert, Weiss, maybe, but both of them are so good at getting to the basket. And then when Ellis is the third option, they're a tough team. What have you seen from SAR, and what do you see for them as they take on the rest of their schedule?
So this is not to throw any coaches under the bus. All these coaches are fantastic in how they approach their opponents, but there's just something about Coach Rafi. I think he eats, sleeps, and breathes SAR basketball, and with that, their opponents, and does a lot of studying up on their opponents before game time. I think that's part of the reason why SAR was able to come out on top in that TABC game. And in terms of the DRS game, it really could have gone either way. But I think they owe a lot of their success right now to Rafi, and Jack Terrell as an assistant has been a vital key to that success as well. It's another test, and if SAR go 3 for 3, 2 wins against TABC and a win against DRS, expect some real fireworks.
They have an opportunity to really set themselves up nicely. If they beat TABC, they'll have a 2-game lead. essence, yeah, a 2-game lead and owned the tiebreaker over them as well.
Yeah,
So,
and it's like you said, not qualifying for Sarachek last year. I think they remember that. They for sure
yeah,
remember.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Everyone, especially a school like SAR, who's normally in that tournament, for them to have to take a year off from it was something obviously that kept them hungry. And they're number one in our rankings, and that's where we are. A lot of movement. Some teams really making some headway and moving up. Again, the high riser of the week, the MCA Lions. I mean, they deserve all the flowers that we're sending them. They had a phenomenal week, and they should feel great about where they are. But still a lot of work to be done. And then those other teams who are slipping. We're kind of not even at the midpoint of the season yet, so there's still a lot of times for teams to move up, move down, and really separate themselves. And our next segment is our game of the week. So I hate to keep doing this to you, Oren, but the game of the week, again, it's going to be TABC going to SAR. We have a panel, we go through the games, and we have to do the game of the week. And this was a clear no-brainer, TABC at SAR. Last week's game of the week was TABC at Hillel at TABC, which I was correct in my prediction. I said TABC would win probably about 7 or 8 points. I think they won by 9. So now we get to the matchup SAR versus TABC. Again, we've spoken a lot about it just through having Ari on it as a player of the week, talking about it during the rankings. But what a matchup that's going to be, and it's going to be a packed house in SAR. As Ari said, it's he views it as his biggest rival in the Yeshiva League, and I think. Again, for TABC to win, it has to be Eyal Kindelera. He is truly the dominant player, and he's quite different than Joe Aaron, who even Ari talked about. Joe's great at transition. He's great, and he is good in the half court offense. But Eyal is really a half court stud. The way that Coach Oz runs plays for him, gets him on the low block, and then getting on the offensive boards. It's really their biggest advantage against SAR, and then SAR has the dynamic duo of Weiss and Halpert. What do you see coming into this? And I know you can give a prediction. I'll give mine if you want to would not give a prediction, however you want to see. But what do you see going into this matchup again?
Well, you definitely know I'm not touching the prediction part of this. I will say that I think the pressure is actually more on SAR going into this game than TABC. People are going to talk about the dynamic duo of Halpert and Weiss, needing to do their parts. But I'm gonna and Ayal for TABC. But I'm gonna single out 2 players who you didn't mention. For SAR, I'm going to single out Ellis, and I'm going to single out Yona Mandel for TABC. Yona Mandel has to be the shooter that TABC knows he can be. And he's going to really have to turn up the offense, if Ayal is really, being hounded all night by SAR. And in terms of Ellis could be that under the radar type player who can really do his part and do the small parts for SAR if either Halpert or Weiss is not having a good night.
Right. I think, and this is also one of the few times in the past few years that TABC doesn't have that second twin tower. They have Ayal. I feel like has always had another big guy with him to help with the rebounding and stuff.
It used to be Stern.
Oh, right. Okay. I was going to say, I remember it always was like there was another kid flying up there to get rebounds. And I think, that's something that, he's really doing a phenomenal job. But I think this is going to be a great game. It's going to be a single digit game. I actually think TABC is going to win. I think TABC is going to win because I think SAR inevitably is primed for a little bit of a letdown. And I don't mean about preparation, and I don't mean about them being ready or prepared for their opponent. I just think fatigued mentally, knowing you just beat TABC and DRS in such close games, that you might just like relax a little and understand this game means more for record wise for TABC than it does for SAR. So I feel like TABC wins by 2 points. Last minute we're probably tied going back and forth, and I could see the Ayal just parrying the team on his back, one of those 2020 games where only he's capable of doing something like that. And I think they win by a point or two, and I think they just pull it out. But again, this is just my prediction. It can go either way. I'm not really going out a limb by saying 1 or 2 points. But that's where I'm at. I think TABC takes the game, and you obviously you have no prediction, but I'm sure you think it's going to be a close game and something that, goes down close to the wire.
The only thing I'm asking for is that can we get one game of the week where TABC's not in it?
Well, yeah. I mean, like, you're the AD, you're the one who makes their schedule, right? You bring on all newcomers and all teams, right? Like, when the kids say, why'd you play this against them? We're like, we don't make the schedule. We just, get the teams from the league and then we set it up and everything. So yeah, I'm sure we will get to a game of the week next week. Whoever TBC is playing, we're going to say it on record. They're not game of the week, no matter who it is. We'll find another game so we can, talk about them. But that's our game of the week. It's TABC going to SAR. I predict TABC winning by a point or two. I think it's going to be a phenomenal game, and it's going to be a great show. And we'll see how it is. And I think, Oren, I think that's pretty much it for our show, right? We have all the stuff we have there. We had the great Ari Halpert. It was a great interview, player of the week. We want to thank our sponsors, Holy Schnitzel, Got to Get a Bagel. Continue to supporting the show. The Yeshiva League Pod Tip-Off Podcast is here for you. The guys who play the game, the coaches who coach the game, and we're just here to kind of recap it all. And we look forward to coming back with you. This is episode 3. I'm Ari Wickes for Oren Glickman. We'll see you on the next episode. Yeah.